Each year in Jerusalem, silence gathers inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre as daylight fades and anticipation settles without announcement, recalling accounts preserved since the 9th century, when witnesses first recorded a flame appearing during prayer, quietly, without spark, explanation, or command. Long before crowds arrived, early Orthodox chroniclers described this moment as unforced, noting that clergy entered the sealed space with extinguished candles, emerging later with light already present, a pattern repeated carefully across generations, seasons, and political changes without public declaration or doctrinal argument. The setting itself shaped the memory. Stone walls, narrow passages, and measured movement restrained emotion, allowing attention to rest on the act rather than spectacle, so that belief formed through repetition and restraint, not persuasion, surprise, or narrated certainty alone, within shared expectation. By the early medieval period, references placed the rite firmly within the observance, yet descriptions remained cautious, emphasizing order and silence, as if writers feared excess language might distort what was seen, handled, and then passed outward, hand to hand. Those accounts rarely paused to explain origin or mechanism, instead anchoring the moment in continuity, where expectation met patience, and where the absence of commentary became part of the testimony, suggesting that meaning unfolded slowly, carried by time rather than assertion. Within this framework, the ritual resisted personalization. No individual claimed authorship, credit, or control, and attention remained fixed on the act itself, repeated annually without modification, allowing observers to decide privately how to interpret what their eyes encountered during shared moments. Over centuries, rulers changed and calendars shifted. Yet reports returned to the same restrained vocabulary, preserving the sense that something occurred without urging belief, leaving space between observation and conclusion, where faith, doubt, and patience could coexist without conflict within living memory. The sanctuary functioned less as stage than vessel, containing the movement of people and light, so that what happened inside remained framed by discipline, not amplification, and emerged outward already shaped by communal restraint and long-standing custom, preserved through careful repetition. Observers often noted that the first minutes drew unusual calm rather than excitement, as if the moment asked stillness before response, reinforcing the impression that the event belonged to inherited practice, not to spectacle, innovation, or immediate explanation within shared worship. By presenting itself the same way each year, the holy fire entered memory as pattern rather than claim, setting the foundation for later centuries of witness, where repetition, not proclamation, carried the weight of what believers chose to remember across generations. On the appointed night, inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, the inner chamber is sealed and searched, following a practice shaped over centuries, so that when darkness settles, no visible flame remains. Only expectation held quietly among clergy and waiting pilgrims. The Orthodox patriarch enters alone, carrying unlit candles, surrounded by stone and silence. A moment recorded repeatedly since the medieval era, where movement slows, sound fades, and attention narrows, not toward explanation, but toward what may unfold without invitation or signal. Accounts describe a pause rather than an instant, as minutes pass without announcement, until light appears within the enclosed space. Not struck or transferred, but present, altering the atmosphere gently, enough to be noticed, yet restrained, demanding recognition without theatrical force. When the chamber opens, Witnesses speak of candles already burning, their flames steady, distributed outward through narrow passages, touching wick after wick, transforming stillness into movement while preserving order, so that transmission feels deliberate, measured, and bound to inherited ritual discipline. Some observers remark on the first moments of the flame, describing a softness to the light, an unfamiliar quality. Before heat asserts itself, a detail repeated cautiously across generations, never framed as proof, but as personal observation carried quietly into memory. The event unfolds without proclamation. No voice declares arrival, and no explanation accompanies the moment, allowing the fire itself to mark the transition. While participants respond instinctively, lighting candles, faces, and space, guided more by custom than by instruction. Within the crowded church, movement remains controlled, shaped by centuries of repetition, preventing chaos, so that even as thousands receive the flame, the moment retains composure, reinforcing the impression that what occurs belongs to order, not impulse or emotional release. Historical records from Byzantine times onward emphasize this discipline, noting that the rite survives scrutiny precisely because it resists elaboration, allowing the act to stand unchanged, repeated annually in the same place under similar conditions, inviting observation without forcing interpretation. As light spreads beyond the chamber, the contrast between darkness and flame becomes unmistakable, yet remains unaccompanied by commentary, leaving participants to experience the transition personally, carrying away candles that represent encounter rather than conclusion within the shared vigil. This central moment, repeated since at least the 9th century in Jerusalem, forms the heart of the holy fire tradition, where presence replaces explanation, and where the act itself, not its defense, becomes the point from which meaning slowly radiates outward. After the candles leave the inner chamber, the meaning of the holy fire shifts from moment to memory, carried beyond the Church of the Holy Sepulchre into streets, homes, and distant lands, where the flame becomes a reminder rather than an event, sustained through careful handling. In Jerusalem, observers note that the ceremony ends without commentary, allowing departure in silence, reinforcing the idea that interpretation belongs to the individual, shaped later through reflection, prayer, and time, rather than fixed immediately by words spoken within the church walls. Over centuries, Orthodox communities preserved accounts not as arguments, but as testimony, passed through liturgical memory, where repetition affirmed continuity, and where restraint protected credibility, ensuring the event remained embedded within worship rather than isolated as spectacle or challenge. By the late medieval period, pilgrims carried the flame across borders, embedding the Jerusalem experience into local practice, where its origin mattered less than its role as shared remembrance, linking distant churches to the same night, place, and inherited rhythm. Writings from later centuries reveal caution, emphasizing that the holy fire's power lies not in explanation, but in endurance, where annual return affirms stability, even as empires, authorities, and languages surrounding the Church of the Holy Sepulchre changed repeatedly. For many believers, the event settles quietly into personal devotion, shaping prayer habits and Easter memory, without demanding declaration, as the flame's brief life gives way to reflection, suggesting that meaning continues long after physical light fades from view. Modern observers encounter the same pattern recorded since the 9th century, where repetition replaces novelty and where the absence of claims allows space for faith to mature naturally, without pressure, defense, or insistence imposed upon the witness. Within Orthodox tradition, the holy fire remains a living ritual rather than historical artifact, sustained by practice, location, and silence, ensuring that Jerusalem remains not a stage, but a point of return, anchoring belief through disciplined continuity. Those who leave the church often speak less of what they saw and more of how they carried it afterward, suggesting that the lasting impact emerges gradually, shaped by memory, distance and time, rather than immediate reaction or explanation. In this way, the holy fire concludes not with resolution, but with quiet inheritance, where each generation receives the same unanswered moment, preserved within the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, allowing faith to rest in continuity rather than conclusion.